a well-architected platform scales to benefit a greater number of people without significantly increasing marginalized costs of the platform. So Instagram had a paltry 14 employees when it was bought by Facebook for $1 billion. WhatsApp had a mere 40 employees, but was growing at 1 million users a day when it was acquired by Facebook for $19 billion. So if all your growth is a product of additional staffing, or can you grow and scale because your consumers can easily become producers and help others become producers and consumers? Does that make sense? So rather than thinking, well, we need a staff person for every 200 people that we have in our church, what could you think of creating tools, that people could do ministry and have an impact, without hiring new staff? That's just kind of a theory, but I think you ought to wrestle with that. How far can we go without hiring another full-time staff? And what can we do with that salary instead to create tools to operationalize people? Not just to get them in the door, not just to kind of care of them, but how to turn them from producers to consumers. And I think we need to kind of break out of the paradigm that you kind of need to do this, that people can begin making impact from day one or even in their pre-Christian times. How can we make a tool that captures the energy for them to want to make a difference and do something right now? Not 6 months from now, but something that somebody can do instantly. So I even talked about, I think last time I was together, we talked about that little cycle of believe, belong, bless. So every day making a connection with God, every day encouraging another believer. Let's encourage each other day after day as long as it's still called today. And every day bless somebody outside the body. And you can almost put parameters on it, and it needs to be, all those need to be done in 1 minute or less. So the time barrier is not a barrier to scaling on that thing. But, to create a tool where they could purposefully, and maybe it's just a real simple app that all of you guys work on together, but that's something that just randomly pulls up somebody from your directory and then matches it with a thought or a verse. Thank this person today for their influence on you. Or do whatever. Or, that this week, look for somebody that is doing a good job doing an ordinary thing. So it's a mom taking care of her kids in the grocery store, and you just stop and say, hey, I've just noticed you're going to have great kids because you look like you're a great parent. Your patience with these kiddos, taking them shopping, you got 3 of them. You're doing a great job. And you multiply, so now you have a church of and I'll just so I can play with the numbers, 1,000 people making in a course of a year 365,000 connections with God, 365,000 encouragements to one another, of which you become a recipient of many of them, and 365,000 touches and blessings in your community. Do you think that would change what the city feels like? I think it would. And all of a sudden then, because I believe that when you say you're a missional person, we're the missional people of God or whatever, missional is not a positional truth. You either are or you aren't. And as leaders, we have to give people opportunities to live missionally. So when you say you're a missional believer, I am? Oh, yeah. Every day you do this. Every week you do this. I see you regularly doing this. And so we become that which we consistently do. And so how do you create tools for people to more consistently do those actions, that core interaction that we want to say that leads to formation, that leads to multiplication? Does that make sense? I know it's a really different way to think about ministry and about your own church and then a whole city movement. But, maybe whether you had a tool team or something like that, but what tools can we do? And even if it helps 5 people do something that they did next week that they're not doing this week, that's a good thing. We can start scaling that. If it's 5 people that weren't doing anything before, And so maybe there's something that you say at church, for instance, you just have something, there's some big thought. And you put that up there and you say, this would be an interesting thing this Sunday, but just put a real thought. It might be a verse. It might be an inspiring quote or something like that. It says, and this I think would work too, is that when you read this, God's going to bring somebody to mind that needs to hear this today. And all of a sudden this name pops in their head. I don't know why that popped in my head. And that was God speaking to you. And that person needs to hear what they say. So pull out your smartphones right now and send that message to them. So you got 300 people sitting there, and all of a sudden they have just done. And then you say, here's what you just did. Plato said that everybody you meet is fighting a battle. Be kind. What was the word you guys used over here? Compassion or empathy, or that whole idea there. But all of a sudden you're teaching them into it, and you just mobilized 500 people to missional effectiveness in that moment. Would that be a good thing? Yeah, it would be a good thing. And how could they scale that? And when you get home tonight over the supper, come up with something else, and you do it around your table. And all of a sudden your 500 becomes 2,500. Anyways, I'm just saying, I'm just brainstorming out loud right now. But does that kind of make sense? But you create tools for other people to do great work. You don't need to do so much work. And what happens is once they do that, they get a little shot of attaboy from God. It's called serotonin. But you did the right thing. And then it becomes a self-enforcing cycle. And maybe this week I'll just send out 5 more such thoughts 6 more thoughts between now and next Sunday, and you just use the same process. And I'm going to ask you how, if you did it next Sunday, if people did it, and get a couple stories up on stage like that, something like that. But that's what I'm talking about, is how do you build great tools for other people to be more effective?